I will be reading Marley's story. Marley is a First Nation woman and, along with her two children, has escaped severe family violence perpetrated by her ex partner and the children's father. Marley was previously residing in a regional town outside of Sydney and was brought to Canberra by Domestic Violence Service to enhance her safety, and the family were placed in an emergency hotel accommodation. Her ex-partner has spent a lot of time in prison and was due to be released on a parole, so moving interstate was deemed the safest option for Marley and her family. Marley has been working with YWCA Canberra since early 2021, where we were able to provide her and her children with safety planning, transitional accommodation, setting up a house with everything that the family needed, and family case management support. She also started working again with the Domestic Violence Crisis Service and victims of crime after the perpetrator found the family last year and he relocated to the ACT. She continued to experience abuse, threats, and intimidation from him. YWCA Canberra was able to support Marley through the court process initially to get an interim family violence order. Marley is now in the process of getting a final family violence order, and we are assisting her throughout the process. Marley has been quite overwhelmed with the court process as she feels that there has been a significant lack of communication with her legal aid lawyer. There has been limited opportunity for phone conversations, but rather emails, where she reports that many of her questions go unanswered. It has been hard for her to get clarity around all the processes of the conference, pre-hearing, hearing, timelines, and other evidence and affidavits that she needs to prepare. On the day of the pre-hearing, Marley was in the waiting room waiting for the process to start. She sat there for an hour with no updates. Marley felt she had no idea what was happening. She then received a phone call where it was communicated to her that the matter was now going to the hearing. Marley had many questions about the legal process which she feels still has not been answered. She feels anxious that if she provides a lot of evidence or witness, then her lawyer may decide not to represent her. Marley said that she feels traumatized just going into the court building, let alone going through the process. Marley and her oldest son, aged 10, both have diagnosis of PTSD and as well as depression and anxiety due to the severe trauma they experienced before leaving the perpetrator. The family case manager worked with Marley and her son on how to manage anxiety and regulate their emotions. There has been a focus on teaching them how to recognize their triggers and learn alternative ways to manage heavy feelings. Marley was also referred to a GP and a psychologist for support. Marley started to attend a domestic violence therapeutic support group which assisted her in peeling away her layers of grief and anger from her own childhood and again in her adult life where she had experienced severe family violence, which has allowed her to start to deal with her trauma. By working with Marley in a trauma-informed approach, the family case manager was able to assist Marley in putting her story together and jointly agreed what supports and intervention would assist the family to heal and thrive. As Marley's family was a part of the stolen generation, it took time and persistence to build up trust and stability. Since the family has relocated to Canberra, the family case manager assisted Marley with navigating school enrollments, uniforms, and after-school care. This included attending the meet and greet with the principal. During the beginning of Marley's connection with YWCA Canberra, her depression was very bad. The family case manager visited her home regularly to ensure she was managing daily and that there was adequate food for the children in the house, assisting her to access food pantries when there wasn't. The family case manager worked with Marley to ensure that her son was attending school and then accessed the emergency children's service program, funded childcare to organize a place for her toddler, which provided much needed respite for Marley to rest and heal in safety. Her daughter then moved on to the 3-year-old funded initiative at the Koori preschool. This supported the 3-year-old to learn her cultural heritage and provided Marley the opportunity to develop her skills and study for the first time, where she was able to complete a mental health certificate online. As Marley does not have transport, the family case manager was able to arrange transport support and made connections with a number of other agencies to provide additional support services that Marley and her children need. The family case manager continued to work alongside Marley and her family to ensure that Marley remained focused on the recovery from grief and trauma. The family case manager ensured goals were progressing even through COVID homeschooling and periods of Canberra lockdown. The family case manager remained engaged during COVID and was able to continue to check that the family had essential supplies, activities for the kids to get through each day, and to prevent the family from regressing, and so the family felt connected and supported. Even though engaging in a family case management is an eligibility requirement for the supported transitional accommodation, the family case manager has had to work very hard to stay connected with the family by being curious about their life and circumstances, no matter the resistance the family initially showed. The family case manager had assisted Marley to apply for grants that would improve social connection, and this facilitated Marley to build trust and a connection with YWCA Canberra. During the process of working through each goal, both Marley and the family case manager came across a number of hurdles and setbacks to achieve the desired outcome. However, over 2.5 years of support for Marley's health and well-being, she is starting to improve. The family case manager has worked very closely with DVCS, New South Wales Victims of Crime, the police, GPs, the Children's School, the Personal Group, Australian Childhood Foundation, Legal Aid, and St. Vincent de Paul, St. Nick's program, and local food pantries to ensure all services and supports are well coordinated and working together when needed to ensure Marley and her children are receiving the support they need. YWCA Canberra Gender and Trauma Informed Client-Centered approach allowed the family case manager to be guided by family as they are the best person to direct their lives. Giving encouragement and support and allowing the family to have setbacks but scaffolding them to build self-esteem and resilience to preserve no matter what challenges are in their path has helped this young family to blossom. When other services have walked away and misread Marley's lack of engagement as not wanting to progress, instead what Marley actually needed was extra support due to trauma. The YWCA Canberra took the time to ask the questions, allowing the family to reach deeper in their understanding of their needs and then providing them to find solutions to assist. This is what has allowed YWCA Canberra to instigate such positive change in this family. After 2.5 years of intensive case management, Marley and her children are now thriving. YWCA Canberra are supporting Marley and the family to move and finalize the family violence order before closing her case. Thank you.
Melissa is a young mum of 3 children aged 4 and 2 years old and a 3-week-old newborn. Melissa reported that it was after fearing for her life that she had to leave her relationship and therefore fled from New South Wales to the ACT. She was experiencing significant physical violence from the father of her first 2 children. Following this, Melissa and her 2 children lived in a refuge at first, but then transitioned into a share house. There are no parenting orders in place. They struggled financially, and Melissa constantly feared that her ex-partner would find her location and harm her or the children. Melissa could not afford the rent at the share house, and it was unsuitable as she and her 2 children were all sharing one single room. At risk of homelessness, Melissa and her children were referred to YWCA Canberra for transitional accommodation and family support in December 2022. Melissa had met her current partner John while she was living in the share house, and she became pregnant in January 2023. Melissa reports that John had been a good and stable factor in her life. She kept her addresses private to ensure her and her family's safety from the ex-partner. However, she has reported that her ex-partner has recently been frequently texting her and asking for her to send his 2 young daughters to him over for Christmas. Melissa reported that at the beginning of the year, she had to do an emergency pickup of the children from her ex-partner as he had called her aggressively, and she feared that he may cause harm to the children. She reported that she's very anxious for her daughter's safety, given the history of the violence, the emergency pickup, and that her eldest had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, resulting in significant developmental challenges and additional needs in addition to their trauma. She's deeply concerned for the safety of her daughters, as she reports that her ex-partner can be very impatient and escalates quickly, highlighting the risk to safety. YWCA Canberra has undertaken extensive safety planning and risk mitigation with Melissa and made warm referrals to Women's Legal Service for legal assistance. However, despite the history of domestic violence, threats via text, and safety risks, Melissa has been unsuccessful in obtaining a final family violence order. One of the major systemic challenges has been the cross-border issues, as Melissa lives in the ACT while the perpetrator lives in New South Wales. Interim orders were served at the address of her ex-partner known to Melissa at that point in time. However, there are concerns around whether he received these. There have been quite a few other barriers around access to information regarding who to talk to and potential challenges around communication between ACT Police and New South Wales Police. Melissa is seeking to include her daughters in the family violence application given the concerns mentioned before. However, the case was adjourned last week. Given the multiple threats from her ex-partners and evidence of numerous videos of her ex-partner perpetrating violence on her that she had not submitted to court earlier, Melissa is extremely anxious and hoping for a family violence order to be in place as soon as possible. However, the systemic cross-jurisdiction barriers prevents her from getting the FVO in a timely manner, and she feels with Christmas nearing that her family will experience an increased safety risk. Melissa is exhausted from having a newborn as well as 2 other young children in her care, one with significant additional needs, and having to bring all 3 children everywhere, including court. She stated that she has found attending court frightening because she has felt really awkward bringing her children to court, but that because of her DV experience, she doesn't feel comfortable in leaving them with anyone else. She reports a loss of confidence in the court system to assist her in prioritizing her own and her children's safety due to the length of time and ongoing and increasing safety concerns as the end of year holiday approaches. Melissa has also started experiencing hair loss, which her doctor advises is because of her increased stress due to her safety concerns. Melissa is receiving psychological and other support for herself and her children.
Today I'll be reading Amira's story. Amira is a 27-year-old woman from a refugee background and originally hails from East Africa. She has lived in Australia for over 6 years, has 4 children, and speaks and understands some English. In December of 2022, Amira contacted our DV support service seeking support as she was experiencing domestic and family violence from her husband, the father of her 4 children. Amira reported that she was experiencing physical violence as well as controlling behaviours such as stalking and tracking, a form of technological abuse. Amira reported that she was quite seriously injured on one occasion and had required medical attention. While she previously had been employed, she had lost her job because of her husband's continuous harassment of her at her workplace. She was only able to attend YWCA Canberra offices because she told her husband that she was seeking to enrol her youngest child in one of our early learning centres. Amira reported that her husband was jealous when she spent time with their children, so he didn't have a problem when Amira used this as the reason to visit YWCA Canberra. However, the real reason for meeting with us was to seek DV support. Amira and her 4 children currently reside in housing ACT property along with her husband, the person using violence, who was not working. Our DV specialist case managers undertook a comprehensive DV assessment, safety planning, and risk mitigation with Amira to plan for her and their children's safety in order to provide the support that she required. Amira advised that although the children were exposed to violence, she was the sole target of the violence. To support Amira's safety, we provided information and support to Amira to seek a family violence order. Because of her trauma and fear for her safety, given her stress that her husband was tracking her whereabouts, we attended court with her, where she was granted an interim family violence order. We provided further court support in February 2023 at the conference, and the pre-hearing was scheduled for May 2023. It was adjourned to July 2023 and then again adjourned to September, and then once more adjourned again till November. This is because the respondent, her husband, is denying all claims and does not consent to the family violence order. Amira's mental health has significantly deteriorated, and she now suffers anxiety for her safety and reports a loss of confidence in the court process and ability to keep her safe. After the interim family violence order was granted, Amira separated from her husband and he moved in with another community member. Amira reports that he continues to cause her stress and fears for her safety. He has used the court system to cause her further distress. She advised that she also experiences stigma and shame in her community, which have ostracized her and her children and sided with her husband. Amira and her children are also at risk of homelessness because of the housing ACT property is in her husband, the respondent's name. And despite significant advocacy to Housing ACT, they have advised that they can only change the tenancy to Amira's name if there's a final family violence order in place. YWCA Canberra made a warm referral to Canberra Community Law to assist Amira with legal advice and make an application to the ACT Civil and Administrative Tribunal to remove her ex-partner from the tenancy agreement and allocate the lease to her. However, the long wait for the final FVO is compounding the trauma and stress that Amira has experienced. Even with the support that she is receiving from YWCA Canberra and Canberra Community Law, she reports feeling very overwhelmed and mistrustful by the protracted court process. She is also very fearful about the potential for this place to place her and her 4 children at risk of homelessness. Last week, Amira expressed that due to a declining mental health and exhaustion, which stems from the stress of the delayed court process to finalise the FVO, the backlash from her community, the fact that her ex-partner continues to use the court system to intimidate her, while she has to listen to his lies and untrue accusations of her in court, she's considering not continuing with the FVO process. YWCA Canberra will continue to support Amira and have organised emergency childcare for her youngest child since she has previously withdrawn the child from childcare mid-year. We will continue to provide practical support such as food and vacation care programs for the 3 school-aged children in school holidays. We will continue to provide the therapeutic and court support in referral to care for financial counselling and budgeting, assistance to access the escaping violence payment, and support and liaison with Housing ACT and Canberra Community Law. We will continue to support Amira when she needs it most.
I will be reading Kalira's story. Kalira is a young First Nations woman that fled from Queensland to the ACT due to experiencing ongoing violence from her partner, who is the father of her 2 infant children. A domestic violence service based in Queensland paid for Kalira's flights to the ACT. She had a 5-year domestic violence order in place due to the seriousness of the domestic violence that she had previously experienced. Her now ex-partner, the perpetrator, also had a domestic violence order against her. Kalira initially stayed with some extended family here in the ACT, but she experienced lateral violence from them in the form of coercion and control, and then additional threats of physical violence. When it became unsafe for her to stay with them, she was homeless. It was around this time that her ex-partner had also found out that she was in the ACT and relocated here. OneLink brokered an emergency hotel for Kalira and her children, and she was then referred to the YWCA Canberra Housing Support Unit for when a transitional property would become available. When it did, Kalira and her 2 children arrived with nothing but the clothes they were wearing that day. YWCA Canberra assisted Kalira in furnishing and setting up the house in only 2 days and ensured that her children had everything they could need. With a safe house now secured, Kalira was assigned a family case manager for support to work with Kalira in order to secure long-term housing. One evening, Kalira was arrested and charged with breaching her ex-partner's domestic violence order in the ACT. Police went to her house and arrested her in front of her children. She was then taken to the watch, and the police were going to call Child and Youth Protection Services for the children. Luckily, she was able to make contact with her aunt, who agreed to look after her children temporarily. Kalira advised that the breach had occurred due to her being continually threatened and provoked by her ex-partner and goaded into responding to him. He had been texting her all day, and she said that she had finally snapped and sent him a threatening text back. Kalira reported that her experience with the police was a negative one. There were 3 male officers, and they had to wait for a female police officer to conduct a frisk search on her. She reported that she felt scared and not heard when she tried to explain the situation to the police. A YWCA Canberra family case manager supported Kalira to attend court. She was charged and placed on bail with another court appearance scheduled. Kalira's childhood experience was incredibly traumatic, and she has very low literacy and numeracy. She displays symptoms of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Kalira is a stolen generation descendant, and her younger brother died in custody. She expressed how the court process was extremely distressing for her, and that she did not understand the processes involved or the difficult legal terminology. It was then that the YWCA Canberra made a warm referral to the Aboriginal Legal Service for legal assistance and cultural support. The ALS were able to assist her throughout the legal process. At the next court appearance, Kalira was given the opportunity to go through the Galambani Circle Sentencing Court for First Nations people. Whilst this process was taking place, Kalira's ex-partner found out where exactly she resided in Canberra and started to try and contact her. He began to, once again, incessantly call and text her, so Kalira went to the local police station to report this, as he was breaching her DVO against him. In the end, she didn't end up reporting the breach because she, Kalira, didn't feel that she was being heard or understood by the police officer at the station. She felt incredibly judged. When she attended court again, this time with the presence of the Galambani Circle Sentencing, Kalira was given the chance to speak to some Aboriginal elders about her situation and what was happening around the time that the charge was laid. The prosecution raised the fact that Kalira had 2 previous charges of breaching a domestic violence order against her, and that the contents of the text mentioned in the breach were offensive and threatening. Kalira's lawyer argued the fact that there was a 2-year gap between the first breach and the second one. Since she had received a non-conviction from the first charge, she should receive non-conviction for the most recent charge. Kalira was then given another opportunity to speak with the elders, and they asked her some questions about what happened at the time and what was going on in her mind and in her life. Kalira reported feelings of disempowerment and being unheard, especially when it came to the police. She has a deep mistrust of police, already given her family's circumstances, and this experience compounded it. She felt they did not display an understanding of the full picture of the ongoing abuse, harassment, and threats that her ex-partner was making towards her. She wished that it all could have been sorted out so that she and her children could feel safe and settle into their transitional housing and start the journey to recovering from their trauma from experiencing domestic violence themselves. Kalira found the process distressing, especially the very long time it took. The court was then adjourned so that the elders and magistrate could deliberate. When it came to the time of sentencing, the Aboriginal elders and special magistrate were present. When Kalira was called back, the magistrate spoke highly of Kalira and the strength that she had shown in court in speaking her truth, and told her that she was believed. Due to the nature of the offence and the threat made, Kalira received a non-conviction with the 12-month good behaviour order. YWCA Canberra were able to support Kalira to secure early childhood care for her children so that she could seek support to attend court and legal appointments as was required. Kalira noted that she felt supported by the Galbany Circle sentencing process and the Aboriginal elders on the panel. She welcomed the opportunity to finally have her side of the story heard in a non-judgmental way. This had never been her experience in court before. YWCA Canberra and the Cultural Support Social Worker from Aboriginal Legal Services will continue to work together to support Kalira in the long term so that her children are safe and well. She is encouraged to cease engaging in retaliatory harassment with her ex-partner to sustain her tenancy and to be able to secure long-term housing.